My real job here is to fill time until our true guest Tom Khalil shows up. Yeah, thank you. I don't use the word very lightly, but yeah, my service is appreciated. Tom's going to come and I'm going to interview Tom, which is super exciting for me because if you think I know anything about government, like Tom, we can't blame him for it, but he knows a lot about government in that sense. So thank you for the introduction, Tricia. Man, I think I've expended all my extroversion points today. This is the problem with coming this late at the end of the day and having so many like creative, incredibly engaging talks and people that I should probably just turn around as an introvert and stare at the wall and talk this way. And in the effort to like reclaim sanity. Well, let's see what happens. When you are given an opportunity to give a talk to folks like this, like you would think like you would go with the tried and tested. I'm not normal. So I'm going to try something I haven't done before. Thank you. There are no IRB rules here, by the way. There's no informed set. You sat down. Was good enough for me. Which means you can get out of it. So the opening question is how? How did you get here? Why are you? How did this happen? You'll see that I'm supposed to ask slightly bigger questions. So really, it's like how did we get here? And then what I really care about is how do we kind of get past this? Whatever this is, as it were. So the first thing to know is not that. So the good news is I come from DARPA, where the whole principle is failure. You embrace failure. So there we go. I've failed the first time. Let me start by saying I'm an anthropologist by training. I usually say this right now. Okay, that's not the response I usually get. So I want to give people time to leave. If you're an anthropologist, see you later. The reason I bring this up in the front is because one, it means I have a very particular perspective. Two, it means I'm very unimpressed by human individual brains, right? We think our brains are these like amazing centers of like reason and logic. And actually our superpower is each other, right? You take me and a chimp and you put us on a desert island for 2 weeks. Who do you think is still going to be there? It is not me. Right. So individual human brains are very underwhelming, but collectively, it's pretty impressive what we can do. The other reason I mentioned this is because in anthropology, there's a guy named there's a Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. Anybody heard of this? Edward Sapir, which basically specifies in its weakest form that your language kind of shapes your reality. That takes on a new meaning entirely as we watch LLMs, like literally embody that in some sense. But the point being like, if you have words for things, it's easier for you to think about them. I have abused that principle because now I actually have taken on a habit of building neologisms. The way I did not, I think, originate this, but it's from a podcast in 2021. I was on a queer thinking podcast, and someone was asking me about my opinion, like, how do you feel about AI? And the best I could offer was, I'm an apocalyptimist. It could be amazing, or it could all go to shit. Right. So and the problem is I don't think there's an in between in some weird way. By the way, there's a movie coming out soon called AI Doc, or How I Became an AI Apocalyptimist. I think that word came in through my best friend who's interviewed in that movie. I didn't trademark it, so I won't be retiring early. But I think it's an example of like when you have a term like this, one, it gives you room to think differently slightly, maybe try to address the binary distinctions of it's either or. But I think it also is important because you're going to confuse AI in some sense. Okay, so let's start from big violation of basic anthropological rules. I'm going to talk about society, which would normally get me excluded from most anthropological discussions because it is too big, and I totally accept that. But let me start with the notion that why do we have society? Well, I mean, why do you even need it, Sub says. And my argument, I saw a lot of literature, by the way, is that the reason we have society is because societies have to solve for key functions. So this is the only math you're going to see on this slide. And as you can tell, it's legit. This is hardcore math here. Okay, so I'm going to unpack it for you. So societies have to figure out how to solve for things like coordination. Big word we've heard all the time, but they have to do it coordination at scale, right? So every society has to solve this, and they all do it in vaguely different ways. Every society has to solve for this function of knowledge, not just creation, but accumulation. And there are examples of societies that didn't solve for this as you went backwards technologically. So this is not not trivial in some sense. Every society has to solve for legitimate authority. Every society has to solve for resource production, distribution, ultimately allocation. And resources here, of course, include not just material resources, but labor, right, in a very real way. And every society has to figure out how to solve for this. Every society has to solve for conflict, that is to say, organize to conduct it, but also how do you resolve it, right? The war part, in some cases, the violence part is the easy part for species. It's how do we resolve that in a way that we sort of like continue on, as it were. Every society has to solve for risk pooling. This is going to be increasingly interesting with AI. We have to figure out how any given one of any individual cannot tolerate the levels of risk that industry, that the nation, other people are buying. So we have to figure out how do we pool that level of risk. And this is where, again, my physicist friends begin to roll their eyes. Every society has to solve for identity, or identities in some sense. And the problem with that, though, is that in some societies, I can solve that by telling you what your identity is. So the best ones solve for not just identity, but also belonging. A sense that, yes, this is an identity that I recognize, or identities that I recognize, and that gives me meaning. Okay, what's with the grand scope discussion, this whole thing? It's because I want to propose that if we step back and think about the term technology and deconstruct it slightly, we tend to think about technology in very specific ways, less so this crowd, fortunately. But that actually references like systematic knowledge and treatment of practical knowledge to solve problems. And I want to argue that institutions are, as you said, Tricia, OG technology. It is the institutions, the formal, semi-formal, and informal that we create that solve for those functions in a very real way. And the implication then is that nowadays we talk about institutions versus technology. We distinguish those things, and I see this certainly in DC, for example. The idea we're going to build an institute to help address challenges with technology. But again, my argument is institutions are technology. And the implications, I think, I want to pull on that thread a little bit, and I would love to engage a little bit further about what that means. This is a slide I'm going to pronounce very carefully. SDTs, which stands for Hopter's 2022 article about socially disruptive technologies. And the reason that's relevant is because I think as we think about AI across these criteria, our institutions are, it's an open question whether we, the degree to which this SDT is going to challenge our ability to solve for these functions. So the first thing that he talks about is the depth of impact, right? So pick any discipline, any industry, any silo, and look how deep that technology is going to run. I don't have to convince you guys that's happening. There's also the range of impact, right? The general purpose technology. It's called general for a reason. But that is a challenge when our institutions are subject to very different things across the silos, yet this technology has got such a wide range. There's the famous. Does anybody know anybody who doesn't have strong opinion about AI? Sincere, question. Yeah, so I have one person in my life who does not have a sincere or a strong opinion about AI, and I think it's my dog. But I'm not sure. The dog may still have stronger opinions. The valence of this technology is inherently sort of socially disruptive, as you can tell by the fact that I am a apocalyptic. The ethical salience is also super important. An example of previously socially disruptive technology is the mechanical ventilator. Which doesn't sound all that disruptive, except that previously our definition of death had been when people stop breathing. Now you've invented technology that allows people to continue to breathe, and we have to reformulate, like, what does death mean? And the good news is our institutions were able to solve for that, right? They could now move to like brain death. There was discussions around insurance, legalities, et cetera. Fantastic. I do not see that happening right now, to be honest, partly because of the uncertainty. The uncertainty of the technology means that it's virtually impossible, I think, to write meaningful policy in a space where this stuff is changing so quickly, at least with the given current institutions. And that speed part is also, again, stuff you all know already. But it's not just the speed of diffusion. As we're aware, it's the speed of self-improvement. I actually was a director of the AI division at one of the more famed institutes. Actually had a couple co-authors on the 2017 Attention is All You Need paper. And it is still amazing how often we have conversations about how AI will never do X. And then it does it, which means that this stuff is pervading, and another element of this is just the irreversibility of it. Now, I don't like the expression "you can't put toothpaste back in the tube" because I have 2 kids and I know for a fact you can. You can put toothpaste back in the tube, and that's a valuable skill if you have children. But I think the irreversibility of this is pretty clear, and that's evident by the fact, for example, that you go and you ask people if you had to pay, if we took these tools away from you, how much would you pay to get them back? And it's pretty clear that even the biggest skeptics would pay a lot of money to keep this. So this is true for now, right? AI, what I call AI now. It's probably going to be more true for what I call AI next. It's probably even more true for what I call AI after next. Wait, there's more. The AI after next. Notice I have not said superintelligence. I haven't said AGI. I don't even think you need to use terms like that. Because all it involves is just thinking about what is the AI after next. And there's really no reason to believe that it's not. Could be something uncertain, irreversible, deep and broad its impact, etc. Okay, then let's run into Papalopoulos. So, I'll emphasize this, me the optimism in some sense. Well, let's start with the opposites. The first is that when institutions are faced with these kind of threats, they have a couple of different strategies. The first one is deny. I actually got into this business working for a guy whose whole mission was to help the Department of Defense avoid what Arthur C. Clarke calls the true errors. There's the error of imagination, where you just can't see how some logical or mechanical leap will occur that makes something that was previously impossible possible. And then there's the error of nerve, which is you can kind of see it, but boy, that's inconvenient. Boy, that means like the things of the world that we think we understand and all the plans we've made, it just complicates stuff. So we're just going to be sort of the error of nerve in some sense. I'm seeing a lot of that being committed in both cases, right? The imagination and nerve. But the deny strategy is nothing to see here. It is amazing how many people still feel this way. And I think signals like the challenges we've got going on. The other strategy, of course, is defend. At where I sit at university, that is the immediate instinct. Let us defend the institution. Let us avoid people using this tool because it's cheating. What is at the very best, let's use it to do what we already do. I think that's less tenable as well, to be honest. So the other, I would say the third option is you develop, which unfortunately means change, and runs into a common misunderstanding, I think, when it comes to resilience. That resilience is not stability. You know, we call things resilience when we build them and they defend, they don't bend under attack. The real resilience, actually, is when something changes in the world and it also can change. So to me, resilience is in fact co-evolution. And choose the word evolution very carefully here. It's not just development, but evolution, because evolution can do something we cannot do yet. We need to figure this out. And here's what I think it does. Evolution has solved, in many ways, the dilemma that we face. And the dilemma is we can exploit, right? You can work with the resources you have in front of you. You can harvest in this area. The institutions we have now are harbingers of expertise. The harbingers of process. They are exploiting, and I don't mean this in necessarily the most malfeasant way. They're exploiting what they were built to do in that ecosystem. Or we can explore. And the problem is we have to build institutions that could do both now. And I don't know the actual solution to that, but I think this is an example of a community that understands the exploration, has deep roots in exploitation, not in the wrong way, but we need to figure this out. How are we going to build these things? So my solution in the near term is going to have to save the wharf. I'm going to need your help here. We're going to invent a wharf for what we're going to do. And yes, I worked a little bit with LLMs on this. So instead of exploit, how about exploration? Okay, now how about exploitation? For some reason, Claude really liked this one. Rapscadulate. Which, yeah, hey Tom. All right, we're good. We off the stage here in a moment. We guys should talk to the guy who knows the thing too. Flexpansionism. It's not bad, right? You're a flexpansionist. Scantidating. Sounds risque. Venturaging. Either venturing while you forage, it says that. Or foragineering. That's got some edge, right? Query vesting. A chromosome was done. Roamsteading is not bad. Are you a roamsteader, right? Setting up shop, but also still working around you. This was about on enterprising. Entropy, right? Okay, fair enough. And then finally, harvestigating. You are harvestigators. You need to know that. Now, I have a word for you to understand. You are harvestigators. The problem is, like, you can do this individually, but if you're not surrounded by the institutions that can help support that, you got an uphill fight, as you already have. So what are the kinds of things we're actually trying to build? Are they fluxstitutions? Are they explostitutions? I think we'll pass that one. Are they evolvinstitutions? I don't even know how to pronounce that one. Are they metastitutions? Which sounds, vaguely, unfortunately, like metastasis, which is not exactly the way. So you can see why clearly I need your help to figure out, like, what is the neologism now to give us the framework of, like, how to do this, especially. And I will simply offer that, like, with that onwards, because the only way around is through. Tom is here, and now I have the job of fireside chatting with him. By the way, Tom has actually built fluxstitutions, even if you didn't know it.
That was great, Adam. So, thank you. Give Adam a round of applause.